Norfolk City Council. We'll call the meeting to order pursuant to Executive Order number 20-03, Coronavirus Public Meetings Required Limited Waiver. And this meeting will be conducted by teleconference. Our council members have joined us via teleconference on a line that is also open to the public. To begin the meeting, I want to call your attention to the Open Meetings Act, which is posted on the City of Norfolk website at norfolkne.gov/openmeetingsact.html. And if you would now please join me in a moment of silence and then the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Roll call, please, Brianna.
Clausen. Granquist.
Here.
Jackson.
Here.
Lange.
Here.
Merrill.
Here.
Murin.
Here.
File. Weeblehouse.
Here.
Okay, I want to make a note for the public who is accessing this meeting through the teleconference line that at any point, should you have comments to participate in discussion, you can do so by pressing *9 on your telephone, and you will go into a queue and will be then designated for comment at the appropriate time. With that, I will look for a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda.
So moved, Councilman Merrill.
Second, Councilman Lange.
Motion by Councilman Merrill, second by Councilman Lange. If no discussion on that, please roll call. Brianna.
Clausen. Granquist.
Yay.
Jackson.
Yay.
Lange.
Yay.
Merrill.
Yay.
Murin.
Yay.
File.
Yay.
Weeblehouse.
Abstain.
Motion carries.
Okay, with that, I would look for a motion to approve the full agenda.
So move, Your Honor, Councilman Lange.
Second, Councilman Jackson.
Okay, motion and second. If no discussion, roll call, please.
Clausen. Granquist.
Yay.
Jackson.
Yay.
Lange.
Yay.
Merrill.
Yay.
Murin.
Yay.
File.
Yay.
Weeblehouse.
Yay.
Motion carries.
Okay, that takes us to item number 17 on the council agenda under special presentations. I will now read a proclamation for April 24th, 2020 as Arbor Day. Proclamation reads, whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, lower our heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now, therefore, I, Josh Moaning, Mayor of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska, by the power vested in me, do hereby proclaim April 24th, 2020 as Arbor Day in the City of Norfolk, and urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day by supporting efforts to protect trees and woodlands, planting and caring for trees to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this and future generations, and participating in a tree planting opportunity on their property or in their neighborhood. With that, we will move to number 18 on the council agenda under public hearings and related action. And I will open this public hearing to consider the redevelopment plan for the BCG Enterprises LLC redevelopment project. And to kick off discussion within this public hearing, we'll hear from Randy Gates, our city finance officer. Randy.
This is the final step in approval of the redevelopment plan for the BCG Enterprises project. On January 7th, staff received a tax increment financing application from BCG Enterprises for a strip mall to be located in the vacant lot that's between the old Shopco building and the Office Max location. The city's Economic Development Subcommittee reviewed the application on January 21 and voted unanimously to move forward with acceptance of the redevelopment plan for the project. This plan is included in the agenda packet. The February 18th Community Development Agency meeting, the agency voted unanimously to accept the plan and forward it to the Planning Commission for their review and recommendation. Planning Commission held a hearing on the plan at their March 3rd meeting, and on March 17th recommended approval of the plan on a 5-3 vote. The Community Development Agency approved resolution number 2020-5 on April 6th, recommending approval of the redevelopment plan to the City Council. The redeveloper acquired this property in 2017 and has been unable to make development of this property financially feasible without tax increment financing. Redeveloper plans to construct a 13,000 square foot strip mall on the site with total project costs estimated in excess of $1.5 million. Without TIF, the average return on a 5-year period is estimated at 1.79%, and with TIF, it's 7.9%. Redevelopers requesting TIF of $229,350 to make this project a prudent investment. The redeveloper plans to start construction following TIF approval with completion planned before the end of the year. Construction will include a landscape, plaza, and courtyard in front of the building that will be an inviting area for the public to set or walk through. I can answer any questions, and the redeveloper is also on the phone and available to comment on this project or answer questions.
Okay, thank you, Randy. Do I hear any questions for Randy at this time? Okay, thank you. This is a public hearing, so anyone wishing to make comment can do so. And again, members of the public can participate in discussion by pressing *9 on your phone, and you'll be placed in a queue to speak. Okay. Seeing no one and hearing no further discussion, I will move to close the hearing and move forward to item number 19. I would look for a motion to consider resolution number 2020-13, approving the redevelopment plan for the BCG Enterprises LLC redevelopment project.
Your Honor, I present item 2020-13. Second, Councilman Merrill.
Can we have stated who the motion was from?
Councilman Jackson.
Okay. Motion from Councilman Jackson, a second from Councilman Merrill. Any further discussion, council? And Jim, it doesn't appear we have anybody in the queue. Okay. This looks like another step forward for a promising retail development in the city. So we're happy to see this move forward. Unless there's any further discussion, and I hear none, I would ask for roll call, please, Brianna.
Clausen, Granquist,
Yay.
Jackson, Langy,
Yay.
Merrill,
Yay.
Murin,
Yay.
File,
Yay.
Weeblehouse.
Yay.
All council members present voting in the affirmative. Resolution 2020-13 is adopted.
Okay, that moves us to item number 20 on the council agenda. Under the regular agenda, I would entertain a motion to consider approval of ordinance number 5660, providing for local truck traffic only on Sheridan Drive between 13th Street, otherwise known as US Highway 81, and Homewood Drive in the city of Norfolk.
Yeah, Councilman Merrill would offer for consideration ordinance number 5660.
Councilman Langy seconds that.
Okay, motion and a second. And to kick off discussion on this, Shane Widener, our City Public Safety Director.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is kind of a long-term issue, possibly about 5 years now, that it's kind of ebb and flowed for us in the community in this particular neighborhood where we'd have truck traffic, for the most part, searching to go to AWG coming from North 81, and for whatever reason, their GPS would have been routing them onto Sheridan Drive. Our IT manager three or so years ago made some contacts and tried to update Google Maps and got that approved through Google Maps and had some success there. But then now it's kind of sprouted up again where we're having problems up in the neighborhood, and it's causing, it's nobody's fault necessarily. The truck drivers are following their GPS if they're new to town, and they're winding up in this residential neighborhood and having to back out and back around, and we've had some property damage and some traffic congestion and just a lot of things that have been rather painful for the neighborhood up there. So about a month ago, as a stopgap measure, we put one of our temporary traffic signs up in that neighborhood, not allowing, basically warning the traffic not to go up there. This is a follow-up ordinance. If it's approved tonight, that with your approval, the state would then post the no trucks on Sheridan sign on Highway 81. We have spoken with the state of Nebraska, and they're willing to do that. And then once the traffic sign is posted, then this ordinance would allow enforcement from our local police force if we run into that situation. Hopefully, as maps get updated, that it'll be self-resolving, but we've had pretty good success with the temporary sign, at least to the neighbors that I've talked to up there, and we're hoping that this helps to cure it, maybe not 100%, but goes a long ways to curing the issue that the neighborhood is having up there. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have about this particular ordinance, but that's where we sit.
Okay, thank you, Shane. Seems like a sensible solution to a lingering problem in the neighborhood. Any questions or discussion from the council on this?
Shane, it's Councilman Merrill. You said you'd had a little bit of success with the temporary sign. How many instances do you think were caught by that temporary sign?
It's really hard to say how many we caught, but I can say we've had 0 complaints of any trucks going on Sheridan since we placed the sign about 30 days ago. And the neighborhood obviously watches this pretty well. I think a lot of the issues up there were at nighttime, which is harder to see exactly what you're turning into when you're driving a truck. But there were some daytime incidents over the years. But here recently in the last 30 days, we had 0 complaints of any problems up there. And I can tell you the neighborhood's watching it pretty close, so I'm sure that they would have let us know that we had another situation up there. So I'm hopeful that this will help cure it. Again, maybe not 100%, but go a long ways to get success.
Well, I'm sure you'd agree with me, 0 complaints is kind of what we're looking for.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Shane. Shane, this Councilman Lange, and that street's very familiar for me. I transgress it probably half a dozen times a day, and this is very, very appreciated by that neighborhood in particular, because once trucks get in there, there's no really good way for them to get out. It's not like they can go to the west and make a 90-degree turn because it's really tight up there. There would be a tremendous amount of gratification for something like this, especially if it cures a problem that GPSs give us. Paper maps don't seem to do that, but our society no longer is based on that. So, thank you.
Agreed. And, you know, the problem, the truck drivers don't want to be in that situation either. I feel sorry for them. But most of the time, their way out is to start backing out and backing onto side streets. And as you can imagine, backing a big, large rig like that in a residential neighborhood can cause some problems. So we've had some property damage and to lawns and to trees and such. And a lot of frustration with the truck drivers themselves being frustrated, and obviously the neighborhood. So hopefully this will work.
Okay. Thanks again, Shane. Any further discussion or questions, council? Again, any member of the public can participate by pressing *9 on your telephone. Does not appear we have anyone in the queue, and if there's no further discussion, I would ask for short title, please, Brianna.
An ordinance of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska to provide for local truck traffic only on Sheridan Drive between 13th Street, US Highway 81, and Homewood Drive in the City of Norfolk, Nebraska, providing when this ordinance shall be in full force and effect, and providing for the publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form.
Okay, roll call, please.
Clausen, Granquist,
Yay.
Jackson,
Yay.
Lange,
Yay.
Merrill,
Yay.
Murin,
Yay.
File,
Yay.
Weeblehouse.
Yay.
All council members present voting in the affirmative. Ordinance 5660 carries on first reading.
Your Honor, this is Councilman Lange. I would move that we suspend the rules and pass ordinance 5660 on second and third reading, much to the gratification of the neighborhood. Second that, Councilman Merrill.
Okay, it sounds like we have a motion by Councilman Lange to suspend the rules and approve on second and third readings, and a second by Councilman Merrill. If no further discussion, roll call, please.
Clausen, Granquist,
Yay.
Jackson,
Yay.
Lange,
Yay.
Merrill,
Yay.
Murin,
Yay.
File,
Yay.
Weeblehouse.
Yay.
All council members present voting in the affirmative. Ordinance 5660 carries on second and third.
Okay, with that, we move to item number 21. I would look for a motion to consider approval of change order number 1, which includes an additional award of bid schedule D, Rosh Drive, for street repairs in the concrete improvements 2019-2 project with Elkhorn Paving Construction Company Incorporated, resulting in an increase of $140,924.
Your Honor, when Councilman Lange here, I would move approval of change order number 1, dated April 20, 2020. Jim Jackson, second.
Okay, motion by Councilman Lange, seconded by Councilman Jackson. For a kickoff of discussion on this, Steve Ramus, our city engineer, please.
Mayor and members of council, what you have before you is a change order to add a second project to the construction contract with Elkhorn Paving that was previously awarded on the April 6th meeting. The city, we had prepared plans for 3 projects, work there on Brosh Avenue, West Brosh at 34th, another project for work on 34th itself, and there was a third project that involves some panel repair or street repair over at 25th Street. As a function of the bid, the contractor was not able to get to all of those this year. And so originally we had decided to award the work on 34th and go back out and look for alternate means and methods to secure contract services for the repairs on Brosh Avenue. In conversation with our contracting community over those 3 weeks since the April 6th meeting, the successful contractor that was awarded bid Schedule B for that 34th work did approach us and indicate that they had a recent opening in their schedule and they would be able to basically start immediately on the Brosh Avenue project. Kind of a little bit of background there as well. When we bid the work for Brosh Avenue, that project bid at $198,979.40. The negotiated price for the work is about $58,000 less. It's $140,924. And again, they're able to start that work Wednesday this week should this change order be approved. So
Okay.
I'd answer any questions that you would have on that.
Thank you, Steve. So this essentially is the addition of a project we didn't anticipate getting done through these means for a lesser cost than was anticipated.
Correct.
Correct? Okay.
We were, when we originally did not award it, we knew we were going to have to go back out. We were working on another set of bid documents to rebid work on Brosh in a manner that we thought we'd be able to get it done this year. Again, that was working with local contractors on means and methods to secure that. So this eliminates the need to go back out for rebidding purposes for that particular project and allows us just to change order that to the current contract.
Okay, makes sense.
Okay, Steve, this is a unit price contract. I'm assuming that these units were presented earlier, and there must be some changes that would have saved us the $50-some thousand in there that way. But they were all basically unit prices that were bid previously anyway.
Correct. The only unit that we are kind of adding is we did not have GeoGrid in the original bid, so GeoGrid itself is an add to the original unit line items.
And last question, so it's the street that we're doing, it will be shut down while they're doing it, I'm taking it, or assuming?
That's correct. It'd be a full closure. It's approximately 350 feet of West Rosh. We do have businesses in there. We're maintaining full business access via existing approaches during the construction.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any further questions? Again, any member of the public can participate in discussion by pressing *9 on their telephone. Does not appear that we have anyone in the queue right now. If there's no further discussion from the council, I would ask for a roll call.
Clausen, Granquist,
Yay.
Jackson,
Yay.
Langy,
Yay.
Merrill,
Yay.
Murin, File,
Yay.
Weeblehouse.
Yay.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
Okay, that takes us to item number 22 on the council agenda under administrative reports. The council will now hear presentation of the comprehensive annual financial report for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2019, along with the related auditor's letter. And this comes to us from Randy Gates, our city finance officer.
As you indicated, Mayor, there's two financial reports under this agenda item in the agenda packets. This is under enclosure 22, which begins on page 113 of the packets. The first of these reports is the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, or CAFR. The second is the Auditor's Management Letter. Some years there would be a third report in here, which would be the single audit reports, but we did not have enough federal funds expended this year to need a single audit. The threshold for that is $750,000. We only had $658,000 of expenditures of federal awards this year. That resulted in a savings of $3,000 in audit fees, since there's a considerable additional amount of work the auditors have to do for a single audit report. Since we don't have a separately issued single audit report, the section at the end of the CAFR has the reports required by government auditing standards, and this begins on page 248 of the agenda packets. These are all clean reports, noting no internal control weaknesses, no noncompliance with laws or regulations, and no audit findings or question cost. On page 134 of the agenda packets is the auditor's independent report on the financial statements themselves. This is a clean opinion stating that the city's financial statements comply with generally accepted accounting principles. The best place to look for a broad overview of the city's financial statements is in the two government-wide financial statements. These are on pages 153 and 154 in the agenda packets. These statements are full accrual statements on a basis similar to what businesses prepare their financial statements. I'll focus on the statement of activities on page 154 of the agenda packets, and this is similar to businesses' income statements. At the top of the statement of activities, the various government functions are listed down the left-hand side, and these are things like public safety, public works, public library. The expenses on a full accrual basis are the next column to the right, and I'll use public safety as an example of how this works, since they're the largest expense by far in here at $10.3 million. And this is expense related to the police, fire, and emergency management activities of the city. And there were three different types of program revenues for public safety. The first of these was charges for services, and you'll see that there was $818,625 of charges for services for public safety. The biggest portion of that, over $500,000, is ambulance charges. Also in here are a number of other fees like rural fire district fees, 911 fees paid by Stanton County and Hoskins, among other things. The next column over to the right is operating grants and contributions. The city received over $510,000 of these revenues for public safety. These are things such as municipal finance organization revenue, funding from other cities and counties for SNARE and Region 11, our wireless 911 allocation from the state. And then proceeding on to the right, you'll see the capital grants and contributions is over $600,000. This is primarily the rural fire district share of our new area. The net cost of public safety after subtracting the program revenues is about $8.4 million. If you go down that column, you'll see that the total cost of governmental activities, net cost, was about $18.9 million. That's comprised of $32.2 million of expenses, offset by $2.8 million of charges for services, and $8.5 million of operating grants and contributions, along with $2.1 million of capital grants and contributions. This compares to a $16.1 million net cost of governmental activities last year, which is an increase of about $2.8 million, most of which is in public works. This increase in net public works expense is primarily due to $2.4 million decrease in capital grants and contributions. There were large developer contributions of infrastructure in the prior year for infrastructure in Fountain Point, Meadow Ridge, Meadowman's Lake, and College View, along with $1.5 million of special assessments. Business type activities is the next section of the report and reflects activities where the users are expected to pay the full cost. As you would expect, there is net revenue for all three of these activities. Total net revenue for the business activities is approximately $2.5 million both this year and last year. However, the composition of that $2.5 million changed significantly. Net revenue for the solid waste division was up about $400,000 because of a $9 per ton tipping fee increase. This money is being accumulated to fund implementation of the sewer master plan that includes the truck maintenance facility, extensive paving, and other improvements. Net revenue in the water division decreased over $600,000, primarily due to a decrease in capital contributions from developers for water mains, mostly on the projects I mentioned earlier. Net revenue in the sewer division increased almost $200,000 because of a 6% rate increase at the beginning of the year to fund expected future capital needs. The bottom half of the statement of activities shows the general revenues that the city uses to cover the net costs of the activities in the upper half of that page. The largest of these general revenues is sales tax, which decreased over 8% due to expiration of the half-cent sales tax for the library. That expired on April 1st of 2018. Looking at just the ongoing 1.5% city sales tax, this actually increased 3.7% from the prior year. I expect a good portion of this is due to internet sales. In 2018, the Supreme Court ruling in the Wayfair versus South Dakota case overruled prior Supreme Court decisions and allowed collection of remote cells. And LB 284 was passed in 2019 by the Nebraska legislature that allowed us to give the Department of Revenue actual laws that would allow them to collect this sales tax. Our next largest revenue source is MPPD lease revenue, which is shown in the line labeled General Revenue from Electric Distribution System Lease. This is essentially unchanged at approximately $4.6 million both years. The third largest revenue source is property tax, which increased 8.3%, primarily due to an 8.1% increase in assessed value. We also had a small property tax increase in the debt service fund for debt service on flood control bonds for recertification of the flood control levy. The other large change in general revenue is interest income, which increased $380,000 or 77%, combination of both rising interest rates and increased fund balance. When you combine these general revenues with the net expense or revenue shown above, you get the net change in financial position for the year, which is similar to net income for a private enterprise. As can be seen, the city's net position increased $6.7 million this year, which is about $3 million less than last year. And that's primarily due to the large developer contributions as well as significant special assessments in the prior year. During fiscal year 18-19, the city's net position increased from almost $139 million at the beginning of the year to over $145 million at the end of the year. Another good year for the city financially. And so far, year to date, we're looking at having a good year in 1920. All of our revenues were strong. Sales tax, occupation tax, and Keno. Our sales tax receipts this month alone, which are for February sales, were up almost 20%. Year to date, they were up over 8%. As we all know, COVID-19 will probably change that significantly. Last week, I looked at our early occupation tax filers for March. For the 23 returns that have been filed early, occupation tax was down 16% compared to March the prior year. And so I expect we'll see similar trends with these other occupation taxes, with sales tax. Keno's expected to go to zero, but we're actually still getting some significant Keno revenue, kind of the Keno to go type thing that Big Red and Mel's are doing. The last report, as I mentioned, was a required communication from the auditors or the management letter. That begins on page 252 of the agenda packet. This letter talks about the auditor's responsibilities under generally accepted auditing standards and a clean report. There's no disagreements with management or other difficulties in performing the audit, and answer any questions.
Okay. Thank you, Randy. Any
Randy, Councilman Merrill, we've got a question for you.
Okay?
Back on page 142, there's program revenues, general governmental, and in that pie chart you have there, there's charges for services of 21%, operating grants and contributions at 63%, and capital grants and contributions of 16%. What are the charges for services? Can you give me just a short overview of what those are?
And you're on page 142, you said?
Yes, Randy, 142.
Hang on a second. The charges for services is things like ambulance, billings, various admin fees, the general fund charges to other funds like water and sewer. That type of thing would be a good example. I thought we had a table in here somewhere that indicated what was in those things.
Generally, that's kind of it. I mean, I think I was on your operating grants and contributions. That 21% that's not an admin fee for those operating grants or capital grants, is it?
You're talking about for the governmental activities?
Yeah. General government, yeah, governmental. That 21%, that's not an admin fee for operating grants or capital grants, is it?
If we get an admin fee for grants or admin fees from, say, the vehicle parking district for administering their revenues, those types of things are all part of that charges for services under general government. And operating grants and contributions of $67,850. I would have to look and see, trying to think what that is. I can find out what's in both of those numbers and get back to you.
Well, and you know what, Randy, that would be fine. Yeah, that'd be great. I guess that 21%, is that percentage about the same as it was last year and the year before, or have we seen a spike in that?
I believe those are about the same as last year and the year before. I'd have to double check on that, but I don't think we're seeing a big spike in that. We're seeing some gradual increases in general governmental operating or charges for services, because we're increasing our charges to the enterprise funds to try and get that up to where our true cost of services for providing that. So we've been increasing the water and sewer admin funds by 1% per year and the solid waste by 0.5% per year. So it should be gradually increasing.
Okay. I think you had alluded to that too in the report, that it was less than, or somewhere around 2%. So, but that clarifies it for me a little bit. Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Sure.
Any other questions? Again, you can participate in discussion by pressing *9 on your phone if you're listening in. As these presentations do not require any formal action by the council, we will move on to the next under item number 23. presentation of the Community Development Agency's 2019 Annual Tax Increment Financing Report to governing bodies. And again, Randy Gates will make this presentation to the council.
This is the second year that you've seen this report. Community development law was amended 2 years ago to require this report every year. It's to be done for the calendar year and be provided to all the agencies that are affected by all the other governmental agencies that are affected by the community development agency's tax increment financing. So we need to provide this report to the city, county, school district, community college, educational service unit, and NRD. And that report, as I said, must be done by May 1st. There are specific things that have to be included in the report: total number of TIP projects, total estimated project cost, initial projected assessed value compared to actual assessed value, number of TIP projects paid in full during the year, and the percentage of the city designated blighted. Also, for new TIP projects approved during the year, there's specific additional information that has to be provided for each of those projects. On pages 260 and 261 of the agenda packets is the report for calendar year 2019. As you can see, we had 3 new TIP projects approved during the year. These projects were for the Norfolk housing development, the Harbor View housing development, which is immediately north of Norfolk, and the Husker Automotive project, which is the renovation of the old Shopco building for the new Courtesy Ford dealership. There was 13 TIP projects approved prior to 2019, one of which was paid in full during the year. Project paid in full was a Crafts Inc. TIF project, and that project was for demolition of the old Roman packing plant and construction of the Peterbilt Truck Center, which is located on that site. And that project actually paid off more than 5 years early, paid off in less than 10 years. And I think we've had all of our projects that pay off early. That results in 15 TIF projects at the end of the year. Total estimated project cost for all 16 projects existing during 2019 was over $191 million. The total initial projected assessed valuation for these projects was $132 million. That compares to actual assessed valuation of $27.5 million at beginning of 2019. That's a big difference, but primarily because most of these TIP projects are not yet completed. At the end of 2019, 30.86% of the city had been declared blighted. Answer any questions you may have.
Can you say that last number again, Randy?
30.86%.
30.86.
So we'd have about a little over 350 acres of additional land that we could declare blighted before we hit our maximum of 35%.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions for Randy?
So Randy, Jim Lange here. We've got big game that looks like 2012 is about the newest one. About how far out is that from being wrapped on away?
That's for the Perkins restaurant.
Right.
And I would have to look and see how close that is to being paid off. And size these usually so that they pay off in 15 years. And that one had an initial projected valuation of $1.1 million and actual assessed valuation now of $1,027,000. So I'm guessing unless something happens to their assessed value, and I expect their assessed valuation will continue to increase, but since that one was projected assessed value and their actual assessed value are real close to each other, with the projected assessed value being slightly less, I think that'll probably take either the full 15 years or close to the full 15 years before that's paid off.
Okay, any other questions on the TIF report?
looking at these, is the, in your estimation, is the assessed valuation kind of in line with why the whole TIF project law was put in the first place? Are we looking at this as being a net positive?
Yes, we're seeing nice increases in assessed valuation. Projects that are the toughest to try and figure out what's going to happen with their assessed value are those rehabilitation projects. A lot of money can be put into those projects and not result in a big increase in assessed value like you'd think. But yeah, I think TIF has been doing a great job for the city, getting a lot of projects going that wouldn't have got going without TIF. And we're seeing the benefit of that. And well, we're going to be seeing a lot of benefit from that in the housing projects that are coming up. We had a real housing problem, and without TIF, we'd probably still be having a real housing problem.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that, and I also think that the city of Norfolk is, in my estimation anyway, using TIF as a positive force going forward, staying well within the guidelines that were presented to us.
Well stated, Councilman. Any other questions or discussion?
Randy, this is Fred Remorehouse. The 13th and Omaha redevelopment, it's been approved for over 2 years. Any idea where that's going?
That's the project for, that's Mike Work's project for the hotel behind the Perkins restaurant we just talked about. He's planning on moving that forward this construction season. I talked to him not very long ago, and that project's still a go.
All right, thank you.
Any further questions or comments? Hearing none and seeing no one lined up in the queue from the public, that concludes these presentations and concludes this meeting of the Norfolk City Council. We are adjourned.
Goodbye.